My name is Natalie. I used to believe betrayal came quietly, like a cold wind slipping through a crack in the window. But when my sister stole my fiancé and mailed me a wedding invitation with my name misspelled on the envelope, it wasn't quiet. It was brutal. I stared at that envelope for hours. The woman I trusted with every secret, every heartbreak, every hope, was marrying the man I was supposed to grow old with. And not only that, she wanted me to witness it. She wanted me to sit in silence while she walked down the aisle in a dress I once helped her pick out, toward a man who had once said he couldn't imagine life without me. What she didn't know was, I wouldn't be sitting. I'd be standing with something in my hand that would make her world crumble. And she'd never see it coming. Growing up, it was always just the three of us. My mum, my dad, and my older sister, Amelia. We lived in a modest brick house at the edge of a small town, where everyone knew your name and your business. I was the quiet one, the one who collected rocks and pressed flowers in old books. Amelia was the golden girl. She had a voice that turned heads in church choir and a smile that made strangers stop and compliment her in the grocery store. She was 4 years older, and despite the gap, she never made me feel small, at least not back then. Our mother, Diane, was the glue that held everything together. She made school lunches with handwritten notes tucked inside, sewed matching Halloween costumes, and taught us how to say, "I'm sorry," before pride could rot a relationship. She adored Amelia, but she understood me. When Amelia wanted a sweet 16 party with twinkle lights and a rented photo booth, Mom gave it to her. But when I asked for a microscope and a trip to the Natural History Museum, she drove me 4 hours just so I could see the fossils. I never felt like the second choice. That changed the day she died. It happened in early spring, just before I turned 12. She'd been driving home from work. A simple 30-minute commute she'd done 1,000 times. A teenager texting on his phone blew through a red light. I remember the knock on the door, the police officer's solemn face. The way Dad's shoulders slumped, as if someone had physically punched the breath out of him. After that, everything changed. Amelia cried for weeks. I didn't cry at all, not until I found one of Mom's scarves under her pillow. Then I screamed so hard I lost my voice. Dad became a ghost after the funeral. He stopped making pancakes on Sunday mornings and started drinking black coffee in silence. I tried talking to him, tried asking him to help me with homework or take me to the park, but his eyes would glaze over, and I knew I'd lost him too, at least temporarily. Amelia, on the other hand, threw herself into school and singing competitions. Grief made her ambitious. It made me invisible. Then came Bethany. Dad met her at a work event 6 months after Mom died. She was sleek, polished, always smelled like citrus and leather. A widow herself, she knew how to talk to grieving men. Within 3 months, she was having dinner at our house. Within 6, she had a drawer in Dad's dresser. Amelia welcomed her with open arms. They went shopping together, got manicures, giggled over wine like college roommates. I tried. I really did. But I couldn't trust someone who decorated over Mom's memory like it was tacky wallpaper. Bethany rearranged furniture, painted the living room beige, and took down every photo of Mom that wasn't in my bedroom. The day Dad proposed to her, I felt something inside me harden. I wasn't angry that he was moving on. I was angry he never asked how I felt. No one did. At 14, I learned how to smile through betrayal. Amelia stood beside Bethany at the wedding like a maid of honor. I stayed in the back pew, pretending to be invisible. But grief doesn't just vanish. It burrows into your bones and waits. And that's exactly what I did. I waited. I just didn't know then that it wouldn't be Bethany who shattered me. It would be Amelia. Amelia moved out when I was 16. She got accepted into a university across the state, with a full scholarship for vocal performance. Dad was so proud he cried when she got the letter, something I hadn't seen him do since Mom's funeral. Bethany organized a send-off dinner like we were a picture-perfect family. I helped cook. I smiled in the photos, but when Amelia hugged me goodbye, her perfume caught in my throat, and I realized I didn't know her anymore. For the next 4 years, we drifted. She called on holidays, sometimes on my birthday. When she was home for breaks, we made awkward conversation over dinner. She was still beautiful, still charming, still the girl everyone adored. But she was also distant, like someone I used to know, whose life was speeding ahead while mine stayed parked in the same driveway. Bethany tried to force sisterhood between us. "You girls should go shopping together," she'd say, handing me gift cards like bribes. Amelia always said yes. She always picked the trendiest store, tried to teach me contouring and eyebrow shaping while I nodded along. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just tired of trying to fit into a mold that wasn't shaped for me. Then came prom. I didn't plan to go. I didn't like crowds or loud music, and I didn't have anyone to go with. But Bethany insisted. She booked me an appointment at Amelia's favorite salon, bought me a dress that I would never have picked for myself. It was Amelia's style, tight, glittery, all eyes on me. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the girl staring back. But I wore it. That night, I stood in the corner of the dance floor, watching my classmates laugh and pose and dance under tacky string lights. I felt like an actor in someone else's scene. That was when I saw him, James. He wasn't from our school. He was a freshman at the nearby community college and had come as someone's date. We bumped into each other at the refreshment table, both reaching for the last cup of punch. He made a dumb joke about how we should arm wrestle for it. I laughed harder than I meant to. It was the first real laugh I'd had in weeks. We talked for most of the night. The next day, he found me on Instagram. Then came texts, then coffee dates. He was smart, funny, and gentle, in a way that felt like fresh air. I didn't tell Amelia about him. For once, I wanted something that was mine. But of course, secrets have short lifespans in families like ours. Bethany found out first. She saw a text on my phone when I left it on the kitchen counter. That same evening, she brought him up casually over dinner. "So, who's this James?" she asked. Too sweet, too rehearsed. Amelia's fork paused mid-air. "James?" she echoed, eyes narrowing. "From Western College?" I nodded. She tilted her head and said, "Huh. I think I met him once at a fundraiser." And just like that, I felt the shift. I didn't know what it meant at the time, just a flicker of something sharp behind her smile. I brushed it off. Why wouldn't I? She had her own life, her own boyfriend back at school. I didn't know she had already broken up with him, or that she'd started following James on social media that same night. The thing about betrayal is that it never starts with fire. It starts with friction. And I had just felt the first spark. James and I started dating that summer. It wasn't fireworks or dramatic declaration. Sit was quiet, steady, good. He'd pick me up in his beat-up red Civic with the dented passenger door and bring me wildflowers from the farmer's market. We'd sit by the lake and talk about things that felt too heavy to say out loud before, about grief, about college dreams, about how invisible you can feel in a room full of people who call themselves family. He never made me feel small. With James, I didn't have to compete. I didn't have to prove anything. I could just exist, and that felt like a miracle. At first, Amelia didn't seem to care. She'd like a photo of us on Instagram every once in a while, leave a casual, cute comment and move on. But then she came home for Thanksgiving and everything changed. James offered to help with dinner prep. He was always like that, eager to help, eager to be included. Amelia showed up late, wearing a silk dress and heels in a kitchen full of aprons and flour. She kissed Dad on the cheek, hugged Bethany, and gave me a sideways glance. Then she turned to James. "Well, hello there, stranger," she said, voice sugary. "You clean up nice." He laughed, polite but brief. I didn't think much of it. But over dinner, she kept bringing him into the conversation, asking about his classes, his favorite professors, his music taste, laughing too loudly at his jokes. At one point, she touched his arm when he passed her the mashed potatoes. It was subtle, but I felt it like a blade under the tablecloth. I tried to talk to James afterward. He shrugged it off. "She's just being friendly," he said. "You two are sisters, she's trying to connect." I wanted to believe that. I did. But then came Christmas break. I was sick with the flu, bedridden for a full week. James offered to come by, but I told him not to. I didn't want to get him sick. Amelia had been back in town for a few days already. She texted me once, "Feel better," and then went radio silent. Later, I found out through James's tagged photos that she had invited him to a wine tasting event downtown. "Just ran into him," her caption read, followed by a wink emoji. I asked James about it. He said she'd texted him out of the blue, said she had extra tickets, and he didn't want to be rude. "It wasn't a date," he insisted. "It was just wine." But something in my chest tightened. From that point on, there were small shifts. James became more distant. He'd cancel plans last minute, start showing up late, seem distracted when we were together. I chalked it up to stress, finals, work. I didn't want to be the paranoid girlfriend. I should have trusted my instincts. Spring rolled around, and so did Amelia's birthday. Bethany threw her a huge garden party white tablecloths, champagne flutes, soft jazz in the background. I wore a dress I hated and stood in the shadow of my own discomfort. James arrived late, wearing a new shirt I hadn't seen before. Amelia greeted him at the gate like she'd been waiting for him all afternoon. I stood there, watching them, her hand brushing his shoulder, the way they whispered to each other, laughing behind wine glasses like there was no one else around. That night, I cried in the shower until my throat went raw. Still, I didn't say anything. Still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Because when you love someone, you don't just trust them, you protect them, even from suspicion. But love should go both ways. And mine was starting to feel one-sided. I wasn't expecting to find anything that night. It was a Thursday-own of those long, dragging evenings, when you're too tired to think but too restless to sleep. I was cleaning out my old laptop, trying to clear space before finals, when I stumbled across an old shared Google Drive folder James and I had used for planning our anniversary trip. I hadn't opened it in months. There wasn't much left in there, just a few PDFs of flight options, some Airbnb links, and one folder marked to sort. I clicked it without thinking. Inside were screenshots, messages, photos. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. A blurry selfie of Amelia at the pier, a screenshot of a flight confirmation to San Diego, a dinner reservation, a message, "Can't wait to see you again. Don't forget what we said last night. Shh." Sent from James's email. My fingers went numb. It took me a full minute to realize what was happening. I opened the next image, then the next. A photo of the two of them, Amelia in sunglasses, James with his arm wrapped around her waist, taken 3 weeks ago. I sat there in silence. Not rage, not even sadness, just silence. A kind of cold clarity that makes your chest hollow out like an empty room. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I took screenshots. Every single one. The next day, I invited James over. He came, carrying a coffee and that crooked smile I used to love. "Hey babe," he said. "I missed you." I didn't say anything. I just handed him my phone. He looked down. The smile slipped. "I can explain?" he started. I raised a hand. "Don't." He opened his mouth again. "It wasn't like—" "No," I said, my voice calm, terrifying even to my own ears. "You don't get to talk. You don't get to rewrite this." For a second, he looked like he might cry. "It was a mistake." "Which part?" I asked. The first message? The trip? The hotel? Or the fact that you lied every single time I asked you what was going on? Silence. He tried to reach for me. I stepped back. Leave, I said, and don't ever come near me again. He hesitated. Natalie, please. I pointed to the door. You made your choice. Now live with it. He left. I sat down on the couch and stared at the blank wall in front of me. My body was still, but my mind was spinning. Every memory, every moment, now reframed through the lens of betrayal. I didn't call Amelia. I didn't need to. Because 2 days later, I received an envelope in the mail. It was cream-colored, embossed with gold foil. An invitation to celebrate the wedding of James Alexander Walker and Amelia Grace. My name wasn't even on the inside flap. No, dear sister. No. We hope you'll attend. Just the date, the venue, and a QR code for the registry. I laughed. Out loud. A sound sharp enough to cut glass. That was the moment I stopped crying. Not because the pain disappeared, but because it had finally crystallized into something solid, something I could use. I stared at the invitation for a long time. Then I picked it up, pinned it to the corkboard above my desk, and wrote in sharp red ink beneath it. You invited the wrong person. The thing about betrayal is it wakes you up. After that invitation, something inside me clicked into place. Not vengeance, not madness. Something sharper, colder. A kind of clarity I never knew I had. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The next morning, I got up, poured myself a cup of coffee, and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to let them get away with it, but I also wasn't going to lose myself trying to destroy them. No, that would be too easy. I was going to tell the truth, but I was going to do it my way. First, I revisited every message, every photo, every email I'd saved. I catalogued them into folders labeled clearly by date. Then I started compiling a timeline, not for drama, not for spectacle, but because I needed everything to be exact, precise. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was going to build a case. I created a simple website. Nothing flashy, just a clean landing page, a timeline, and a password-protected gallery of images and messages that showed exactly what James and Amelia had done. Each entry was time-stamped, cross-referenced, and irrefutable. At the top of the site, I wrote just one sentence. You deserve to know who you're celebrating. I didn't send the link. Not yet. Next, I went shopping. Not for a disguise. Not for something petty. I wanted to look calm, elegant, untouchable. I bought a black silk dress that fell to my ankles and fit like it was made for me. Paired it with a cream blazer, simple heels, pearl earrings, a look that said, I'm not broken. I'm just done pretending. A week before the wedding, I called the venue. Hi, I'm confirming my RSVP to the Walker Grace wedding, I said sweetly. But I have a small detail I'd like to clarify. Will there be screens at the reception? Ah, yes, the woman replied. They've arranged for a short video to play before the first dance. It'll be uploaded to our system. Perfect. 2 days before the wedding, I called a friend Devon, a quiet tech genius I'd met in college. I told him what I needed. He didn't ask why. He just said, done. The night before the wedding, I uploaded a copy of the video I'd prepared. Simple slides, nothing flashy. White background, black text, photos, messages, facts. The title? Promises Made, Promises Broken. I didn't sleep that night, but not because I was nervous. I was ready. They had underestimated me their entire lives, treated me like the quiet one, the soft-spoken one, the one who forgave too easily. What they forgot is that quiet doesn't mean weak. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And some of us don't fight back with fists. We fight back with truth. That morning, I walked into the venue like I belonged there because once I did. I recognized half the guests. Some smiled awkwardly when they saw me, others whispered. My father's cousin gave me a sad nod. Amelia's best friend stared with wide eyes. James didn't see me right away, but Amelia did. And for a split second, I saw it fear. She knew I knew, but she didn't know how much. Yet, the ceremony was beautiful, in the most artificial way possible. White roses everywhere, soft violin music playing on loop, a three-tiered cake perched under a glass dome like it was too holy to eat. Everything screamed curated perfection. I slipped in quietly and took a seat near the back. No one stopped me. No one even asked why I was alone. James stood at the altar in his pristine tux, every hair in place, his jaw tight. Amelia floated down the aisle moments later, glowing in a gown that sparkled with every step. A few people wiped away tears. I didn't blink. As the vows began, I stared straight ahead, not hearing a word. All I could think about was how many lies it had taken to reach this moment, how many text messages exchanged in the dark, how many nights I sat awake while they carved out a future together behind my back. And then, the officiant said, "Before the first dance, the couple has prepared a short video to share with everyone, something special to mark the beginning of their journey." The lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. And for a moment, there was silence. Then came the words, "You deserve to know who you're celebrating." Gasps scattered like shattered glass across the room. The first slide appeared, a text from James timestamped. Unmistakable. "I know it's wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you. Don't tell her. Please." Next, a photo of James and Amelia, blurry but clear enough, kissing in the hallway outside my old apartment. Then a string of messages. One from Amelia. "She's too passive. She'll never fight back." Another from James. "I'll propose before she figures it out. Trust me." Whispers erupted. I could hear someone sobbing near the front. I could see Amelia's face drain of color. James turned to the screen like he'd never seen it before. But the pièce de résistance was the audio clip. A voicemail, Amelia's voice. She's too naive to see it. Honestly, I feel bad, but not enough to give him up. The video ended with a simple message on a black screen. "To those who love appearances, this is your mirror." The lights came back on. Silence. Then a few people clapped, not out of joy, but out of shock. I stood, calmly, quietly. Dozens of heads turned toward me. James took a single step forward, hand half raised like he could stop the train wreck he'd set in motion. "Natalie," he said, voice hoarse. Amelia swayed on her heels. Her lips parted. You did this?" I didn't answer. She took one shaky step, then another, and collapsed. Her knees gave out, her veil slipping off as she hit the floor with a thud that echoed through the stillness. Gasps followed. Someone yelled for help. A woman in a pale green dress rushed forward. I didn't move. James rushed to Amelia's side, panic in his voice. "Call someone! Get water!" I watched as the chaos spiraled. Glasses spilled. A waiter dropped a tray. Someone was crying. And all I could feel was the slow, strange rise of my own heartbeat finally, in rhythm with the truth. No more hiding. No more pretending. No more being the quiet one. A few guests stared at me like I was the villain in a play they hadn't read the full script for. But I saw something else in other faces' recognition. A few even nodded. They'd been betrayed once too. They knew the feeling of swallowing pain so someone else could look good on stage. I walked out. No one tried to stop me. Outside, the sun was still shining. The air was cool, gentle. The world hadn't ended. It had just turned right side up. I pulled my coat around me and walked down the long gravel path away from the venue. Behind me, the sound of sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Let them clean up their own mess now. I had already swept my life clean of them. I didn't check my phone for the next 2 days. I turned off all notifications, deleted every social app, and checked into a quiet inn on the outskirts of town where no one knew me, not as the girl who ruined the wedding, not as the ex-fiancé who got revenge, just a woman with a suitcase and a name no one questioned. When I finally turned it back on, my phone exploded. 37 missed calls, 91 unread messages, dozens of voicemails, half of them starting with, "Natalie, please." The rest were from unknown numbers. Apparently, the video had gone viral. Someone, maybe one of the wedding guests, had uploaded it online. By the time I saw it, the clip had been shared over 1 million times. Comment sections were ablaze with hashtags like "Run Natalie Run" and "Karma at the altar." People praised the mystery woman who exposed the bride and groom with class. They didn't even know my full name. Some people called me brave. Others said it was cruel. A few thought I had staged it for attention. But I didn't care. Because for the first time in years, the narrative wasn't being controlled by anyone else. Not by Amelia. Not by James. Not by my family. Just me. Then came the texts I expected. From James. "I never meant to hurt you. Please let me explain. I messed up." From Amelia. "I don't even know who I am anymore. Can we talk?" From Dad. "You need to apologize. That was your sister's wedding." That one made me laugh. He hadn't called me his daughter in years, not since I'd started living for myself instead of following his unspoken script. He didn't even ask if I was okay, just demanded I clean up their shame. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and booked a one-way ticket to Portland. I had always wanted to live near the coast, somewhere where the air didn't feel so full of expectations, somewhere I could write again. I hadn't opened my poetry journal in over a year. Before leaving town, I made one final stop in Old Cafe, where James and I had had our first real conversation 3 years ago. To my surprise, he was already there. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. His eyes puffy, his clothes wrinkled, his confidence completely gone. He stood when I entered. "Natalie." I held up a hand. "Don't. I'm not here for closure." "Then why?" "I needed to see you like this, without the suit, without the fake smiles, without Amelia standing behind you like a shadow. Just you. Broken. Honest." He sat back down, eyes cast down. "I was a coward." "You still are." He nodded. "I didn't expect you to fight back." That stung more than I thought it would. "You thought I'd stay quiet forever?" I asked. He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I stood to leave, then paused. "You didn't lose me at the altar, James. You lost me the moment you started treating my love like a backup plan." He didn't try to stop me this time. When I boarded my flight the next morning, I felt something unrecognizable in my chest piece. Not because everything was fixed, not because justice had been served, but because I had chosen myself in front of 250 guests and the world. I found a small apartment near the water. It smelled like sea salt and old wood. The windows stuck when it rained, and the heater rattled like a tired engine, but it was mine. I painted the walls soft blue, filled the shelves with second-hand books, and adopted a rescue cat named Tuesday. She had one ear and a crooked tail, but she curled up on my lap like she'd known me all her life. Some nights I still dreamed of the wedding, but now, when I woke up, it didn't feel like a nightmare. It felt like something I had survived. Like a page I had finally turned. It's been 9 months since the wedding. 9 months since I stood on that stage, looked Amelia in the eye, and handed her the truth in front of 250 people. Since I walked away from a future someone else tried to write for me. I no longer wonder what would have happened if I had stayed. Because every day since, I've been building something new, something mine. My mornings now start with black coffee, the sound of seagulls, and sunlight pouring into my living room. I teach writing part-time at a local high school. My students call me Miss Natalie and ask me if stories can change lives. I always say yes, not because I want to sound inspiring, but because I've lived it. Sometimes I walk to the cliffs after school and just breathe. I write. I read poetry out loud, to no one but the wind. For the first time, the silence doesn't feel like loneliness. It feels like space room for myself to exist without apology. I've made friends here, real ones. There's an elderly woman named Judith, who brings me fresh lemons from her garden. A barista named Devon, who knows my order before I open my mouth. A shy teenage girl named Maya from my class who once told me, "You make it feel okay not to be perfect." I cried when she said that. Because that's all I ever wanted, for someone to tell me I didn't have to be a version of myself that made others feel comfortable. Amelia tried once more. She sent a long email. No subject line, just paragraphs of spiraling guilt and half-confessions. She said she was in therapy, that she realized she'd built her life around being chosen and didn't know who she was without it. I didn't respond, not out of anger, but because some wounds don't need words, they just need time and distance. James hasn't reached out again. Maybe he's moved on. Maybe he hasn't. It doesn't matter anymore. My father sent a Christmas card. It was unsigned. I left it on the windowsill, watched the ink run when the rain came through the cracked glass. It felt symbolic, like some things were never meant to be preserved. And that's okay. I've learned that healing doesn't always come in big cinematic moments. Sometimes it's in the quiet of planting your own herb garden, the peace of rearranging your bookshelf, the joy of laughing at your own bad poetry, the relief of waking up and realizing no one is going to take anything from you ever again, not your time, not your voice, not your home. I didn't just walk away from a wedding that day. I walked toward myself. And I'm not turning back.